Welcome back to ABC English Story, where we explore the journeys of the human heart and the lessons hidden in everyday lives. I'm your friend and guide, Emma, and today we have a story that touches something deep inside us all. It's about a man named Arthur Jenkins, a quiet man who was looking forward to the golden years of his retirement, only to find a sudden, unexpected turn in the road. This isn't just a story about loss. It's a story about how the most difficult goodbyes can sometimes lead us to the most surprising hellos. So, find a comfortable spot, open your ears, and let's walk with Arthur for a while. Arthur Jenkins was a man of routine and quiet dedication. For 42 years, he had walked the same path to the same building, the offices of Consolidated Manufacturing, a company that felt more like a silent, giant machine than a gathering of people. He wasn't a man who sought the spotlight. No, Arthur was more like the steady foundation of a house. Unnoticed, perhaps, but essential. He knew the company's history, its creaks and groans, its quiet triumphs, better than anyone. His small office, filled with the scent of old paper and faintly of the coffee he brewed each morning, was his small kingdom. He was looking forward to his 65th birthday. That was the day he would finally retire. He dreamed of quiet mornings with his books, long walks in the park, maybe even a fishing trip he'd postponed for decades. The finish line was so close he could almost taste the calm sweetness of it. Then, one Tuesday morning, just 3 months before that longed-for date, a thin, formal envelope lay on his desk. It didn't feel like the usual company memo. There was a coldness to it, a stark impersonality that made a small knot tighten in Arthur's stomach. Inside, the words were few, but they landed with the weight of a hammer. Due to recent restructuring, the letter began, your position has been eliminated, effective immediately. Immediately. After 42 years of loyalty, of quiet, steady work, his journey with Consolidated Manufacturing was over. Not with a handshake or a thank you, but with a sterile, typed goodbye. The dreams of retirement, so vivid just moments before, seemed to dissolve into a kind of gray mist. The sort of sorrowful emptiness that Fitzgerald might have written about, where all the glittering plans turned to dust. The first few days were a blur. Arthur would wake up at the same early hour, the habit of decades clinging to him like a second skin. Then, the reality would hit him. There was nowhere to go, no familiar tasks waiting. The silence in his small apartment felt louder than any factory floor. He felt a bit like a character in an Ellison novel, suddenly unseen. His identity, so tied to his work, now adrift. He'd given his life to a company, and in return, they had given him a closed door. There was a brief, sharp bitterness, a quiet anger that simmered beneath his usual calm. It felt unjust, like a promise broken without a thought, a small echo of the moral imbalances Harper Lee often explored. He found himself wandering through his days, the hours stretching out long and empty. He would walk through the park, watching other people hurry to their jobs, and a quiet melancholy would settle over him. Was this it? Was this the reward for a lifetime of quiet diligence? He spent weeks sorting through old boxes, relics of a life spent, filled with company awards he'd never displayed, photographs of younger colleagues who had long since moved on. It was like digging through the layers of his own past, as Faulkner might describe, each object stirring a memory, a forgotten feeling. He remembered the early days, full of a young man's ambitions, the middle years, a steady rhythm of work and quiet home life, and the later years, the comfortable anticipation of a well-earned rest. Now it felt like that narrative had been abruptly cut short, the ending rewritten by a stranger's hand. But Arthur, you see, was not a man to be consumed by the shadows for long. Deep within his quiet nature was a resilience, a core of strength forged by years of steady, uncomplaining effort. One afternoon, sitting on a park bench, watching children chase pigeons with a simple, uncomplicated joy, something shifted within him. It wasn't a grand revelation, no sudden flash of light. It was more like the gentle turning of a page, a quiet decision, born from the deep well of his character, much like a soul finding its footing in a Robinson novel. He thought, "They took my job, but they cannot take my time. They cannot take my worth unless I allow them to." He started small. He'd always had a knack for fixing things, a skill he'd used around his own home but never thought much of. His neighbor, Mrs. Gable, a kind elderly woman, had a leaking faucet she'd been complaining about. Arthur, with nothing else to fill his day, offered to take a look. There was a quiet satisfaction in the work, in the simple act of making something right again. The way Mrs. Gable's face lit up with gratitude, the warm cup of tea she insisted he have, felt more rewarding than any paycheck he'd received in years. News of Arthur's handiness spread through the neighborhood, not through advertisements, but through word of mouth, the way good things often do. An old fence here, a squeaky door there, a bookshelf that needed assembling. He didn't charge much, just enough to cover his costs and a little extra. He wasn't building an empire. He was building connections. He found himself talking to people more than he ever had in his sterile office cubicle. He heard their stories, shared their small daily triumphs and troubles. He was no longer Arthur Jenkins, the forgotten employee. He was Arthur, the man who could fix things, the kind neighbor, a quiet, steady presence in their lives. There was a simple dignity in this new chapter, a profound sense of purpose that bloomed in the space left by his old job. This wasn't a vengeful act in the way some might imagine, no dramatic confrontation. This was the quiet, powerful revenge of a life well lived, of finding value and joy where others had discarded him. His old company, he heard through the grapevine, was having trouble finding someone with his depth of knowledge. Small mistakes were happening, things Arthur would have caught. There was a subtle, almost Twain-like irony in that. The impact of Arthur's forced retirement wasn't what Consolidated Manufacturing intended. They had intended to save money, to streamline, to move on without a backward glance. They saw him as a line item, a cost. They never saw the years of accumulated wisdom, the quiet integrity, the human spirit they were dismissing. But Arthur's legacy, as it turned out, wasn't to be defined by their decision. His true legacy was being written in these small acts of kindness, in the newfound connections, in the quiet hum of a life rediscovered. He found a different kind of wealth, not in a pension fund, but in the richness of community, in the respect earned through genuine care and skill. It was a testament to the idea that a person's worth is not tied to a job title or a company logo. It resides in their character, their resilience, their ability to find light, even when plunged into unexpected darkness. He had, in a way, undergone his own period of internal struggle, wrestling with feelings of obsolescence, and had emerged, not with bitterness, but with a quiet grace, a redemption of his own time and value, much like a Hawthorne character finding peace after inner turmoil. So, what profound lesson can we, especially as young learners of life and language, take from Arthur Jenkins's story? Perhaps it's that life rarely follows the straight path we map out. There will be unexpected curves, sudden stops, and moments that feel like the end of a chapter. But Arthur shows us that these endings can be powerful beginnings, if we allow them to be. How does this resonate with your own life or the challenges you might face? Have you ever felt like your contributions were unseen, or faced a setback that shook your confidence? Arthur's journey reminds us that our value isn't dictated by external circumstances, but by our internal compass, our willingness to adapt, and our capacity to find meaning in new and unexpected ways. He teaches us the quiet power of resilience, the enduring strength of the human spirit to mend itself and build anew, even when the old structures crumble. Arthur never got his grand retirement party from Consolidated Manufacturing. He never received a gold watch for his 42 years of service. But what he found was something far more valuable. He found a sense of belonging, a quiet joy in simple purpose, and the deep satisfaction of knowing that he had not been defeated by a cold, corporate decision. He built a new life, not on the ashes of the old, but on the solid foundation of his own quiet strength and decency. His story became a small, human testament to the fact that sometimes being pushed out of one door simply forces you to find a better, more meaningful one to walk through. The Pufia Musau of his lost retirement faded, replaced by the genuine beauty of a life lived with quiet dignity and purpose. If this story of Arthur's quiet courage and unexpected new beginning inspired you, give us a like, share it with a friend who might need a little encouragement, and don't forget to subscribe to ABC English Story for more meaningful content like this. We believe every story holds a lesson, and every lesson helps us grow. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.